Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now to the enormous potential of intra-Africa trade. It's being showcased at a mammoth trade fair in Durban, South Africa. It's a key event aimed at giving a supercharged boost to trade on the continent, and all the big wigs across Africa are there, along with multinational companies doing business in Africa, politicians and countless others. But with intra-Africa trade perceived to be desperately low compared to other regions of the world, is the blueprint for accelerated trade within the continent still a fantasy that remains distant and elusive? Or has Africa now unequivocally cast its vote for more and better trade with itself, which, if successfully implemented, could create a single African market of over 1 billion consumers with a total GDP of more than $3 trillion, making it the largest free trade area in the world? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now from Durban, South Africa, by Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeniyi Adebayo. Thank you very much indeed, Minister, for taking the time to join us. I know you've got a lot of things to do down there, so we appreciate the time. What's your assessment of how it's going so far? Lots of deals being done on a fairly large scale?
Well, thank you very much, Charles, for inviting me to your program. It's so far so good. It's been very, very successful so far. It's like you pointed out, it's a very, very big trade fair. Practically all the countries in Africa are involved in this trade fair. They're all represented here. All the big wigs of business and governments in Africa are all here. Meetings are being held, bilaterals, multilaterals, different countries meeting with each other, negotiating deals, different company-to-company, business-to-business deals being negotiated and agreed upon, government-to-government, government-to-business. So there's all sorts of deals going down. And so far, so good.
And, Minister, of course, intra-Africa trade, very important. Currently, from what I understand, at around 5%, needs to be increased to at least 30%. I mean, that really is the future, isn't it?
Indeed it is. And as you're aware, this trade fair is being held in conjunction with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, who have partnered with the African Union and the Afro-Exim Bank to hold this trade fair. This is the second in the series. The first one was held in 2018, and that was a very successful one. I believe deals were concluded to the tune of $40 billion, and for this year they set a target of, I think, at least $50 billion worth in deals that they're hoping will be concluded by the end of this trade fair. And the whole essence is to be able to bring all African countries to trade together. Like you've rightly pointed out, trade within Africa, between African countries, is very, very low compared to other regions of the world. And the whole essence of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is to increase the level of trade that exists between African countries. And at the present moment, trade was supposed to have started on the 1st of January, but it has not really kicked off fully because we're still negotiating the various deals with regards to rules of origin. We have attained, I think, about 87% completion. We still have a little way to go before we can get to 100% completion. But work is going on gradually. Agreements are being reached, and I believe that by the end of this year, we should have reached a comfortable position whereby trade can fully resume.
And beyond sort of the broad picture of what you're trying to achieve with Africa and the continent, I mean, how's this trade fair looking for Nigeria? What kind of monies and deals are you seeing being done specifically for Nigeria there?
Well, you have to look at it from various angles. You have the big multinational companies from Nigeria who are participating, and then you have the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises. On the larger level, these meetings are being held. They are not being held publicly, as it were. They are being held behind closed doors. But at the end of the trade fair, when the report is being given, the amount and levels of deals that have gone down would be announced. But with regards to the small and medium enterprises, the small and medium enterprises, I've been around Nigeria has, I think, about 100 people, MSMEs exhibiting at this trade fair. And from going around and my conversations and discussions with many of the exhibitors who are mainly exporters, they are very excited, and that excited has it's in me now as well, because they've got to be very excited because of the kind of reports that I'm getting from them with regards to the deals that they're getting done. A couple of people told me yesterday that they had gotten fresh orders for their goods from South Africa. A few others have told me that there have been many questions being asked. People have approached them with a view to wanting to purchase their goods. So it is so far so good. It's very exciting. I'm very excited about the potential of what is on the ground, and I believe that at the end of the day, our exporters will benefit from it. Another thing that has come to the fore is that you must recall that because of the COVID pandemic, the federal government set up the Economic Sustainability Plan under the chairmanship of this Sustainability Project under the chairmanship of the Vice President. And as part of that project, we have the Export Expansion Plan. And the federal government released a sum of 50 billion to assist exporters who were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And many of these exporters who are exhibiting at this fair are beneficiaries of that fund. And that fund has gone a long way in assisting them to scale up their businesses, to be able to produce the goods, and many of those goods they have brought here to sell and to exhibit and to take orders for. So it is something that is very exciting. Because sometimes when you sit in the office and you make these policies and plans, that's the theoretical aspect of it. But when you come to a trade fair such as this, you actually see that theory in practice. And that, for me, has been very exciting.
Yes, that's a very good point that you make there. And you also put it in very kind of lucid terms. And I believe that obviously there have been several trade fairs of this nature that you mentioned. The impression that we get, though, is that it's all mostly big deals on very large corporate levels. But you're saying that there are also small to medium scale businesses there, because, I mean, that's really what Africa needs much more, isn't it?
Indeed, you see, it goes beyond just the big deals. The big deals are there, yes. They sit in the large corporate offices and negotiate behind big black desks. But the medium and small enterprises, they exhibit. They're out here in large numbers, and we expect a footprint of over 11,000 people during the week, and they're going around all the stalls. Nigerian stall under the Nigerian MSMEs under the auspices of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. They have a large pavilion here, and there are large numbers of people coming around, asking questions, making inquiries, making orders, booking orders. So it's good for our MSMEs. Our MSMEs, I believe, are the future of Nigerian industry, and the government is doing a lot to assist in that regard.
Absolutely, you're quite right there. And just tell us a bit about what your own pitch from your sort of ministry has been at that trade fair.
Well, basically, what we are saying is, and interestingly enough, this afternoon, I was invited to a bilateral meeting with the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, which is the province where Durban is situated, and he was interested in meeting with Nigerians that they were interested in cooperation between their province and Nigeria. And I pointed out to him that we will be more than willing to assist with introductions to our Nigerian subnationals, the state governments. Tomorrow is the Nigerian National Day. I've invited them to come and witness that, and I promised to introduce them to some of the state governors who will be here so that they can sit down on a subnational level to discuss areas where they can cooperate with each other. And once they are able to do that, we at the national level will do everything possible to see that that cooperation can work out for both the states and both our countries. So basically, my position, my being here is to promote trade between Nigeria and the rest of Africa.
Right, and of course, to some extent, in the process of doing that, you obviously almost come across like a businessman. I mean, you've got to know what the vagaries of the industry are. I mean, what challenges business people face and so on. But let's talk about this Africa free trade area. I mean, put on your political hat and tell us how you think it's all going to work. An Africa without borders, without protectionism, without the turf wars and egos of politicians defending their territories and spheres of influence, and I might add, in some instances, corrupt spheres of influence.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question, and because it is one of the areas that we have been talking about since we got here. At the opening ceremony, many of the presidents that were here and heads of states that were here, they actually touched on that subject, and everybody is agreed that it has to be a win-win situation for every country in Africa. We have to come to agreements whereby every nation in Africa has something to take away from the free trade area agreement. I was in a meeting where we were talking about automobiles and automobile components. And I said, Nigeria being the biggest country in Africa with the largest population, we would like to have all the motor assembly plants in Nigeria. We would like to have all the component makers in Nigeria. However, we recognize that that would not be fair to the rest of the continent. So we are prepared to sit down with the other countries and negotiate a situation whereby, and it was agreed by, I believe this had been agreed by most of the countries, whereby not every country in Africa can have a motor assembly plant. So there will be those countries in certain regions who will have the assembly plants, and then there will be other countries, the smaller countries, who cannot afford to have the assembly plants. They will have component makers. Into every vehicle there are I think about 5,000 different components that go into the making of every motor vehicle. So these component makers can be spread across the whole of Africa, and that is just in one sector. So we're looking at the various sectors to see how every country in Africa will benefit without losing out. We want a win-win situation for everybody, and that is the way we're looking at it. And I believe most of the countries in Africa are agreed that we have to drop our egos and stop our protectionism and be each other's brother's keeper. This has to be a win-win for Africa. We all must look at Africa as a whole, and as opposed to our individual countries.
Well, Minister, it all sounds jolly interesting listening to you articulate it the way that you have. Let's hope it all comes together in practice that way. Adeniyi Adebayo, Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, I want to thank you very much indeed. And he was talking to me there from Durban in South Africa.